I want to talk about something that both therapy clients and therapists really need to understand about a growing trend. There's a growing trend in this field that says modalities don't matter and that all therapies work the same and that the relationship is the only thing that really matters. Listen, that sounds really compassionate and it sounds very inclusive and it sounds very humble, but it's also very sloppy thinking. And sloppy thinking hurts clients. Now, before anybody loses their mind, I want to be clear. The therapeutic relationship really does matter. It matters a lot. If a client doesn't feel respected or safe enough to engage or taken seriously, they won't stay. They won't practice what you teach them and they won't change. I don't think that part is controversial. But here's that lie that keeps sneaking in the side door of all this talk. That because the relationship matters, technique doesn't. That leap is not science. That leap is intellectual laziness at best. And it's going to cost people years of their lives that are looking for your help. So here's the first thing that we need to get straight. The therapeutic relationship is a platform. It's not the engine of change. A relationship gets the client in the room. It gets their buy-in. It gets their honesty with you. But it will not automatically rewire those fear circuits. And it will not dismantle avoidance loops. And it does not correct distorted beliefs. It does not retrain behavior under pressure. A strong alliance without a strong method is like a great bedside manner with no surgery skills. It feels really good. And nothing structural will actually change. This is where people will actually start misusing research to get their point across. Yes, alliance predicts outcomes. Predicts. That does not mean that alliance causes the change. Prediction is not exclusivity. Ice cream sales predict drowning rates. Ice cream does not cause drowning. See the correlation? More heat, more swimming, more ice cream. If you can't understand that difference, you shouldn't be using research to justify how you treat clients. So here's the question that nobody wants to answer honestly. If modalities truly didn't matter, then why do serious clinical guidelines recommend specific treatments for specific problems? If supportive conversation worked the same as targeted intervention, the PTSD guidelines would just say, find a nice therapist and talk it out. They don't. They consistently recommend trauma-focused treatments to do that very specific things that the nervous system and the memory networks and the avoidance behaviors and the belief systems need. That's not branding. That's outcome data. I didn't mention a modality. Now we need to talk about the other little dirty secret that nobody wants to admit. This is all over therapy. Competence. Modality and therapy competence. A massive number of people who say they practice modality don't actually practice it. They read a book. They watched some videos. Maybe they went to a workshop. And now they claim that label. Cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT, is famous for this, and it's not the only one. Not because CBT is weak, but because it's driven, watered down into a vibe instead of a discipline. Real CBT is not just challenging thoughts when it feels safe. It's structured. It's behavioral. It's hypothesis-driven. It's uncomfortable by design. It requires formulation and measurement and homework and skill acquisition and exposure to discomfort and deliberate belief testing. Most people don't want to do that. So what happens instead is they listen empathetically and they validate emotions and they normalize distress. They maybe challenge a thought if it doesn't rock the boat. And then they call that CBT. And that's not CBT. I've trained at both the Beck Institute and the Albert Ellis Institute. That's supportive counseling wearing a lab coat. Then those same people will turn around and say, see, look, CBT doesn't work any better than anything else. No, that's not what it says. What you just proved is that you didn't deliver the actual intervention. You don't get to water down a method, avoid the hard parts of therapy, and then declare that the method was completely ineffective. It's just me being nice. That's like doing 3 push-ups and calling it strength training and concluding the gym just doesn't work for you. And this is where the modality doesn't matter crowd really loses credibility with me. Because what they're really saying is fidelity doesn't matter. Precision doesn't matter. Discipline doesn't matter. That's not science. That's just coping. And coping can be important for some things, but it's not therapy. Now, let me steel man the other side so that no one accuse me of straw manning. Yes, therapy skills matter. Yes, poorly delivered evidence-based therapy can fail. Yes, labels don't just magically fix people. These are all true. But none of that supports the conclusion that method is irrelevant. It supports the conclusion that training and competence are non-negotiable. That is a very different claim than the methods don't matter group. It's a very different claim than modalities don't matter. That the same paintbrush works for everybody. Here's where this becomes a values issue. If you believe clients are fragile, then soothing feels ethical. And if you believe clients are capable, then challenge becomes ethical. The relationship-only model often slides into something else entirely. Endless validation, endless explanation, endless normalization, very little disruption, very little demand, very little growth in our clients. So let's call the elephant in the room about this. When therapy becomes nothing but emotional validation, it quietly teaches this belief. My feelings are proof, my distress means something is being done to me, and I shouldn't have to change until the world changes. That is not the empowerment that our clients need. That's victim logic dressed up as care. Yes, you can be a victim of something. Yes, you need some care. But real therapy does something harder than that. It says, yes, your pain makes sense. And no, your pain does not get to run your life. It respects suffering without surrendering to the suffering. That requires method. That requires structure. That requires a therapist willing to be disliked for 5 minutes to save someone 5 years. So here's the bottom line that you need to keep in mind. The relationship is absolutely necessary, but it is not sufficient. Modality matters when it matches the mechanism of the problem that came in. Pretending otherwise isn't humility. It's abdication. And the client will pay the price about that. I'm not here for likes or clicks or to become famous. I don't get that many views anyway. If you're a therapist watching this, here's your real gut check. Are you helping people feel better in session? Or are you helping them function better in life? Are you challenging beliefs? Or are you just validating their emotions? Are you treating mechanisms? Or are you narrating their experience? Because the relationship absolutely opens the door. What you do after that determines whether anyone actually walks through that door. That's the difference between therapy that comforts and therapy that changes. And I'll take change every day of the week. If this hit a nerve, good. I'm not a controversy kind of video maker, but that means that it mattered. Subscribe if you want some thinking, not some soothing. I have lots more to say about this and how to change your life, how to change the life of your clients.